Hey everyone, welcome to the Sunday School live stream presented on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. West Coast time. All the other times I have no idea, but we have someone here from England. It's too hot, they don't have AC. Luckily for me, I do have AC in here, which is not turned on, but it's a milder day today. I think it's only going to be like high 70s, low 80s, so not so bad, and early enough that this room's not on fire. So, let's see. Today I brought a visual aid, did a little bit of prep work before the live stream, and I'll show you that now because I find it interesting, and I've been admiring it all week, going, ooh, I want to feed this, but I kind of want to do something with it. And so here it is. This is a very used Aquarium Co-op specimen container. If you watched videos, I hatched out Corridor eggs in here, so it's got a blue tint to it, and I've scooped out 500 plus pounds of gravel out of the 800 gallon with it, so it's got a lot of scratches, which makes it the perfect thing to put on high definition live stream for everybody to view through. But this is the one I use to collect my Daphnia and the bigger squiggly things being the mosquito larvae. So just kind of want to show you guys. This is just a scoop. I threw in the net, take a scoop, and if I can get it to focus, there we go. So you can see some are a little more red, some are, a little less colored, but there's a billion of them in there. And I'll be feeding my fish these today. And it's great for, I think, baby fish. I don't think it's really good for brand new fish. You can see some at the bottom there that are tiny, tiny, but there's no real good way to sort them. And then you've got the bigger mosquito larvae in there that are for, like adult guppies and rainbows and all of that. So, yeah, if you get a chance to get a culture and you can set up an outside pond, these are worth it. They're very low maintenance. I basically put in magic small fish feed, which I haven't done enough research to be like, it's any better or worse than doing the mixed spirulina algae and yeast and all of that. But so far, I haven't fed that in a few months, and my yield is doing really well. So I'm not going to change it because it's working for me. So magic small fish feed, well, not the cheapest. Neither is spirulina powder or chlorella powder. I can't remember what that algae is called, but yeah, water's super. I know it looks like it's tinted, but the water is actually super duper clear color. It's just the way the camera is showing it because there's so many Daphnia. So yeah, live food's kind of a fun thing to do. I can't. Well, I shouldn't say I can't. I don't make enough of it where it could be like a sole food source, and nor what I want it to be, but it's real easy to go overboard and just scoop and scoop and scoop and scoop and scoop and feed so much of it. And then you've got so few left in the tub that it takes a long time to breed up the colony again. So I try to do it at max like a couple times a week. And you could do it daily if you had like one tank of a small fish you're really trying to baby, or a wild fish or something like that. You could feed every day small amounts. Like, this is not all of it by any means, but it's also, I couldn't harvest that every day. I would probably have like 4 or 5 days of that much, and then I'd be set back for probably a month. So yes, I feed that to my fish. It's the camera's got a little bit of blur from the way this camera works, so I could put some in that aquarium, but you won't really get to see it. So let's see. I thought the larvae were the smaller things. Nope, those are the Daphnia. Kind of like, they're kind of like bigger brine shrimps, I guess. I was like hatched out brine shrimps. And then the larvae, they're like the size of, if you buy frozen brine shrimp, like the adults, they're kind of that size. So not too big. Mosquito larvae can be hard to harvest because they sit at the top. Like, I'll probably touch this and they'll move. But I'm going to try to, yeah, they're moving again. But you can kind of see, well, they're just moving. But if they're in a pond, let's say it's the pond, the mosquito larvae will sit right on top. You can see like, oh, I've got a ton. The minute they suspect danger, like a net or a human, they dart down and wiggle. So they're not as easy to to harvest. But like in a bucket, it's real easy because it's shallow and it's like shooting mosquito larvae in a bucket. Can you feed baby brine shrimp the aquarium co-op fry food powder? I haven't tried. I suspect in that instance, if it was like in the Ziff's hatchery or something, you would just foul the water faster than it could be beneficial. If you were doing a pond of it outside, which I've done a few times before, I think it would work just fine. Because they're filter feeders and stuff like that. I think it would work, but I don't have that testing. So if you're one of the cool kids and you have a saltwater pond outside filled with brine shrimp, I would try it for sure. But that being said, they'll eat almost anything in a roundabout way. Like you can take a clump of grass and put into a Daphnia pond or a brine shrimp pond, and as it's rotting, the bacteria, and then if you get enough kind of ammonia or anything going, it can turn green water. They'll eat that. And so even in a roundabout way, like my wife has been feeding some of the goldfish and stuff in the ponds, and she puts food in every tank, and I do as well. Even so, the Daphnia tanks, like today, they got bigger pellets. And there's no chance they can actually eat the pellet. But as that pellet decomposes over the next few days, it adds fuel to the fire of the green water. Well, it doesn't have green water right now, but organisms in the water that they could feed on. There are other ones that are green water. So I actually have Daphnia in 2 ponds. There's a third one that's just green water, so I can scoop green water and put it in there. And there's definitely an argument to be made that shouldn't or couldn't you have more fish instead of Daphnia? You could. You kind of have to make that choice of this is going to be for making food, and yeah. Order your aquarium cloth sponge filters. Got to say, excellent. Well, Izzy Aquatics, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. I've added some Amanos to a 10-gallon planted tank about a month ago. These guys zoom around all the time. Maybe 3 to 4 days a week they're zooming. Could it still be mating behavior given the frequency? I think so. I mean, I see that every once in a while. Well, I think there's different levels of shrimp zoomies. When I put like magic small fish food in, it goes around and they'll get more excited, but also breeding behavior, they get excited. And then sometimes with a water change, they'll get excited. And so in my fish room, they get a water change every day. They get fed every day, and then they're probably still trying to mate. So it wouldn't be crazy to be like, oh man, the shrimp are doing shrimp things. And I would think that your tank's probably the same way. Maybe not a water, maybe it's once a week, but they're probably getting fed every day, and then there's probably just breeding action. So sounds normal, and I'd say, yeah, doing okay. Is is there actually trouble in the live stream? Someone had trouble and someone said, what a face to freeze on. That's interesting. I don't see any glitches or any warnings on my side. So I wonder if YouTube's just having a hard time booting up today. Which reminds me, I set myself a goal to hopefully remind you guys, hit the like button, consider sharing to your friend nerd groups that are into aquariums or nature, and invite them to come hang out for a couple hours and listen while they're mowing the lawn or doing water changes or starting their Daphnia pond or setting up an underground filter or petting their dogs or eating tacos. Any of those would suffice, or baking me cookies. That one too. I have a co-op sponge. I'm planning to switch into my seasoned 20 long. Do I have to worry about seeding it, or swap it and just good to go? I have a co-op sponge. If you're talking about taking, like, let's say you've got a hang-on back right now, or just a different type of filter, and the sponge filter is dry, which I really gotta get some more products near me, but if the sponge filter is dry, I could argue both ways. That technically, if it was an established aquarium and you have a light bio load and you've got substrate in there, you've got plants, the odds are you could probably make the swap and not have anything too catastrophic if you're careful about feeding. However, if you're given the option, which almost everybody's always given this option, my recommendation is always run whatever filtration you have right now and the sponge filter for like at least a week, and then remove what you want to take off. Most times people have both or extra, and it's not like, I'm trying to think of a scenario of where you really wouldn't, like maybe you really wanted to move the sponge or the brand new sponge filter in, hang on back going to a different tank. But even then I'd be like, just delay the setting up of a new tank by like a week. Yes, or liking and sharing and inviting him to watch while painting your nails. That is also acceptable as long as there's some little fish going on. Hit the 5-year mark. Is the Yeti Cup still a thing? Is there a 5-year coin as well? There is. Both of those still valid. The only difference with the Yeti thermos, I don't know, what water thing? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to call the thing, but we had the original silver and black. Then we had green, which I thought was awesome. Turns out it was a limited edition color by Yeti, so we couldn't get it again. And I think I'm not even sure if I know what the current one we're sending out is, what color it is. So, but yes, very much a thing. They are expensive. I want to say with the custom printing and everything, I'd have to look again, but I want to say it's $80 our cost. Like it's not, it's over, it's over a year of membership for sure. But the membership thing is more about a group to hang out in and that than it is like making money. So it's mostly crowdsourcing dollars, trying to give it back. The coins also, not free, but not, they're not $80 either. But yeah, so all those, the new 8-year coin is there and waiting. I don't know. Oh, I guess Candy is at 8 years, right? So technically, I think if she placed an order, it would add the tag to her account, and then the next order after that would work. I do the coin thing. There's a lot of code that goes on to add the coins, and every time I basically screw it up, even though I double check it and go, I think I got it this time. Because it's always at least a year between it, I always go, oh yeah, I forgot to hit this little thing to make it add properly, or stop adding it. I always screw it up in some way where either people are getting too many coins, or it's actually not adding a coin, or a thing's doing a thing. The newest latest Yeti is black. So, and I don't have one of those. Do I have a green one? Where'd I put them? Maybe they're, oh wait, we got some right here. So I've got both versions actually. Oh, look at that. I actually got slightly bigger on this one too. So the original, wait, this is the summer one. No, it is okay. Because we did some of these for our employees at one point too. So this is the original member Yeti, right? Enjoy Nature Daily. Then green was an option when we went to re-up, because we got to buy like, I don't know, $4,000 at a time worth of these, which isn't that many when they're like $80 a piece. So then we're able to get this one. And it's always a mixed bag. Like I think this side is amazing. Like the Enjoy Nature Daily turned out really well, but the fine detail on this one, it's kind of, the fish are kind of washed out. So, you learn things on each one you do. Like this one, super visible, great. This one, also good, and I love the green. Haven't seen a black one yet though, so don't know. Yeah, I'm the reason for the coin woes. Well, yes, because either Randy or I will do the coin thing because it's very convoluted, and then inevitably one of us will miss one of the 700 little interactions that has to happen, and or Shopify will change something in the chain that will inadvertently just break it. Is it possible to have one tank? I think it is. I think about that a lot and going, at some point my life will change to where, let's say I retire or I just get really old And I definitely have interacted with people who are at a stage in their life where they just have one aquarium and they get ultimate enjoyment out of it. Like just the one aquarium is all they need, and they've got self-control. So when they see something super cool at the fish store and they want it, they go, but I'd have to set up another aquarium and I don't want that. And so I think that's a very good amount of control they have, because I see a new fish and I have to have it if I'm into it. So I don't know if that goes away. We'll see. Let's see. I think I've received around 6-year coins, but not the 7 or 8-year coins. Well, one, you don't have 8 years worth of membership yet, so that happens. And then you're at number 7 if you've ordered a bunch. So what can happen? We were the first company, and I don't know how many other companies have done it. Maybe none, maybe billions. I don't know. We were the first company to ever integrate YouTube memberships to a website using their API. So it took us like a year and our devs and cost way too much money because we kept asking, well, how does this part work? And then Google would be, we don't know. No one's ever done it before. Hold on. We'll get someone on the team to look into it. It would take a month or two. They'd get back and be like, it should be working now. And so I suspect that not a ton of people use the YouTube membership API, and there's quirks about it sometimes where it doesn't want to sync up. And so where I'm going with this longer story is, if you think you should have been getting a coin and you hadn't, the first thing you could do is go on the website and desync your membership. So like, click the button that says like, take it off, and then put it back on, because it will then force a manual resyncing. So that's at least the first guard of like, maybe there's something wrong. That doesn't fix, it fixes maybe like 30% of the time or 20% of the time. And then there's the other thing that you have to order twice, which is, I realize, not optimal, since you've made the next level. So if you just made level 7 and you placed one order, when you place that order is when it checks and goes, hey, this person's been a member for 7 years. Let me put the tag on their account that says they should get a coin next time they order. That happens. And then when you place the next order is when it goes, hey, they have the 7-year coin tag. I'm going to add it to the order. And then we order, the order goes out. Once the order is done, then another script runs and says, hey, this order had the 7-year coin in it. Let's put the tag on their account now that says, we have shipped them a 7-year coin. Don't ship them more 7-year coins. And so we end up using quite a few scripts to make that happen. And each one of those scripts has to run for each year and each thing. And so things can get bobbled up a little bit. And then, so let's say you're going, hey, I have placed 2 orders. I have resynced my account and it's not working. Definitely a great time to send customer service an email and go, hey, I think I should have gotten it by now. They'll look into it. Maybe your account's bugged, maybe it's not. Then eventually it'll land on my desk and I'll go, oh, when I was setting it up, I only set it up for these months. There's also a real weird scenario too, because we're using a bunch of janky systems together to make this happen, that I have to put every month that you could get the coin. So for instance, let's say you just became a 1-year member, but you don't order anything for like 5 years. And now you're a 6-year member and you place an order. It won't send you the year 1 coin because I have to manually fill in, like, they've been a member for 1 month. They could get a coin, or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. And at like 48 months, I was like, all right, if they haven't ordered in the first 4 years, they can email customer service and we'll get it to them. Because it's not there's no like, if it's between these dates, I have to put in every month of membership is its own tag. So right now there's 80, well, no, I do it a year ahead. So if it's 86 months for 8 years, right? Is that what it is? I don't know. I gotta do the math now. No, that was 8 years times 12. Yeah, 96. So I did it all the way till 108. So you copy and paste like the first, 84 of them, and then you add the next 24 of them or whatever. And you got to do that on multiple scripts. And so it's like a whole hour long thing at minimum, and then hoping you haven't screwed it up. And so I checked this morning. In fact, that's how I knew that no one had gotten one yet. Cause I was like, has any of them sent out yet? And then I was thinking, okay, I wonder if anyone's hit 8 months. And then if they have, cause we're right on that cusp, like Candy got it, which means there's probably 2 or 3 others that have it, but they would have had to have ordered twice. And I bet most of them haven't ordered twice yet for that to work, which is, yeah. Had to be locked up in jail not to buy from the co-op for 5 years. What we see when in that instance is actually like someone had to move, or they like went to college, or they'll still like be a part of the community and they'll listen to tanks or listen to talks and stuff like that, but they can't actively keep, so they have no reason to buy. And then they get back into the hobby, and that's where we see that like, oh yeah, you've been gone for quite a while. Well, welcome back. Is in terms of a customer. Like, you know, there's older names you see that come back, like Dank Tanks. It's always interesting for me to see where you'll see someone who's hung out like in the chat for like a few years, and then they disappear for that big long thing, and then like Danks Tanks not active in the chat lately-ish that I've seen, but also back to 6-year member or 6-month member. So just an interesting thing, and part of that is definitely on me, where it's like, well, you weren't live streaming, Corey. You're right, I wasn't. So Candy's just flexing out. Should be me, Danny, and Paul Martin for the first 8-year members. I want to say that I'm having a brain fart. Oh gosh, he's like the nicest guy alive. What's his name? Daryl Dimer is up there too, I think. Daryl Dimer's pretty far up there. There's a few others as well in that like first 1 to 2 month-ish range on getting the new coins. So we've got an issue with bloodworms. I'm very allergic to them, and they make my eyes swell shut and make me wheeze. So I have a problem with dried and frozen. Yeah. We've had employees develop allergies. I've had friends, you know, like in the hobby, just develop allergies. Luckily, I haven't yet. Most times they find if they just pivot, like, oh, I'm doing brine shrimp now, or I'm doing something else. And, you know, in a perfect world, you wouldn't have that happen. But freeze-dried tend to be more aerosolized than frozen. And, yeah. But the good news is there's so many varieties of fish foods these days that, you know, your fish will be happy and healthy. I was thinking about when I ate that really old fish food in a video, and how at the beginning anything was a fish food, and yet fish food was pretty low quality, and fish still like were a thing. And so when I think about that is like I think there was a Tetra food, and I remember one of the main ingredients was milk, because like, yeah, gotta get calcium in there, right, for fish bones and things. And it actually clouded up the water decently, because like powdered milk was put in, and like it really didn't feed out very cleanly. And that's why for the past, I don't know how many years now, but I think foods have basically gotten to a point where if you pulled off any food off any shelf today, it's kind of just the leading food of 50 years ago or whatever. And so that's why I don't think there's, you know, as a fish food manufacturer, I don't think there's that much difference between all of them in terms of like quality wise. Like there is differences, but not enough that, you know, what do I want to say? To me, it's like, I'm not in this world, so maybe I'm assuming you guys aren't in the fish food manufacturing world. So to try and build a correlation there, it's probably like sports teams or or truck manufacturers. Like I'm a Chevy guy, I'm a Ford guy, I'm trying to even think of other trucks. GMC, right? The reality is they will all physically do a job their truck needs to do. And if you're looking at like a baseball or an NBA team or whatever, they all have insane budgets with some of the most talented people in the world as far as players go. And yet, sure, someone's going to win a championship. There's going to be, you like this thing about this truck more than this one a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you were dropped into the middle of the desert and there's like, here's this truck, it's free, and you got to make it work, you'd be like, thank goodness I have a truck. You wouldn't think, oh man, if only I had the other brand of truck, I wouldn't be in trouble right now. And I think that's with fish food. Like, as long as you have fish food, you're in a pretty good spot, and there's probably more. I wonder if I could make that crazy claim, which I tend to do in live streams. I bet you there's more at this point. We're more user error than we are able to optimize fish foods. So, like, if we were to take 1,000 aquarists of all different skill levels, from you got an aquarium yesterday to you've been doing it your whole life to it's your job, you work at a pet store, whatever, I bet you on average we feed the wrong like modes, the wrong amounts, and things like that. And that's actually much more of a thing we could hone in on than optimizing for, should I buy Extreme, New Life Spectrum, Northfin, Aquarium Co-op, Akari, Tetra, Ocean Nutrition. There's like a Zoom Ed, there's like 100 more. Aquarion, there's a bunch of Amazon brands. I think we could actually do better by just learning more about what mode to feed what fish, because we all have different tanks, and it's I don't want to make it sound like we don't know what we're doing. I think it's actually just pretty difficult. I think we've all experienced, hey, I fed a wafer and I had so many snails that my pleco didn't get it. And then, hey, I was trying to feed the Corridoras, but all the guppies are on it. I think because there's almost infinite combinations of fish, it actually could be pretty difficult to get the right mix of the right sizes of foods to your fish. And the easiest thing is like just put kind of extra food out and you'll cover it all. Let's see here. I think I've been in a similar evolution in dog foods also. I could see that. I don't know enough about dog foods, I think, to really have an educated discussion on it, other than we've gone through the gamut with our dogs, like whether it was like, okay, we're trying freeze dry, we're trying some frozen foods, we're trying um high quality, canned food. For a while we were doing duck and Bartlett pear arcana, like dry crunchy food. And now we're at a point where our dogs, they had emergency hospital visits and all that for a while there. And now they're on a hydrolyzed diet, which is a whole new learning thing. And still my brain struggles to wrap my head around it, on how something derived from chicken doesn't elicit a like chicken allergy response, because the TLDR is we can do so much stuff to, I guess, a piece of food or a piece of chicken that the body can't recognize as chicken anymore, and because it can't recognize it as chicken, you wouldn't be allergic to it. So in theory, with enough time and effort, we could take bloodworms and probably strip out enough stuff out of the bloodworm in the hydrolyzing process to make it so that uh, it wouldn't give you an allergic reaction response. I think that's how that's supposed to work. Now, the food that we're feeding them right now is stupid expensive in comparison. However, all the things in totality seems that our dogs are doing better and are on the mend. But I can't pinpoint, like, is it only the food? Is it only like they're on steroids, and, we're weaning them off the steroids now. And so when the steroids are gone, perhaps it could be just the food, or perhaps it was like a blip, an event, and they were gonna get better anyway, like no matter what type of food. So don't know exactly. But yeah, kind of been through a learning curve myself. Does anyone dehydrate duckweed? People have, and they definitely have mixed it into fish foods before. Not a bad green source, really. Anyone had any issues hanging the Aquarium Co-op air pump on a wall? It looks like it has a nail hook, but any issues with vibration? When it comes to air pumps, if you can isolate vibration, you will reduce sound. The rubber feet do that a bunch. But technically like hanging it from like a string from the ceiling or something could be the the most isolation, but I don't feel like that's very practical. He didn't say Worley. Does Worley still make fish food? I mean, there are kind of some foods that I really do question, but it's mostly like in the koi and pond. Worley fish food. Yeah, it technically still exists. I just so rarely see it. Oh wait, I clicked on an Amazon thing and I don't even see it. Let me try it again. Yeah, Wardley Fish Food. I have a feeling like Wardley got bought out by somebody and just like, yeah, I'm not seeing it. Let me see. Oh wait, no. Acme Markets. Oh, good. What's in the shrimp pellet? The good news is they could have gotten better. I haven't looked at them in a long time, so the heat might not be warranted. This website doesn't have any actual info, which is not very helpful. Let's look at these Wardley at Instacart. Come on, how about Walmart? Walmart, do you have a product listing? Product details, maybe? Nope. Oh, ingredients. Here we go. Fish meal, wheat flour, corn gluten meal, brewer's dried yeast, wheat germ meal, soybean concentrate, fish oil, shrimp meal, fish protein concentrate, dehydrated, alfalfa meal, soy protein isolate, algae meal, rolled oats, crab meal, krill meal. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, it makes me think like there's a lot of binders and fillers in there, and what blows my mind is Wardley could turn themselves around by just changing that ingredient mix. Like if they just brought crab meal and krill meal and stuff like that, if that was like the first three ingredients, fish meal, crab meal, krill meal, shrimp oil or shrimp meal and fish oil, and then they put the binders in, that food would knock our socks off. Be like, wow, this is really good. But that would change their ratio of, selling apparently 1 ounce of that food for $6.25 on Walmart. And it's out of stock. So, but even that, to be fair, I still think even that is good enough to probably feed fish compared to 50 years ago when we were just using milk and things like that as a calcium source. It's the hemoglobin in the bloodworm that our bodies react to, isn't it? I can't remember exactly, but I think it's meant to be really similar to our own. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a bloodwormologist, even though I play one on TV. My water pets eat the duckweed from the top of the tank. No blanching required. Is that dehydrated or I'm missing? Let's see. That was Lori. Did you trying to get more context to that? Because yeah, they're like goldfish will eat that. African cichlids will eat it even while wet. But I was wondering if you had like a hack of like I dry it out and then they want to eat it. My goodies eat duckweed. Yep. I've got a new betta who's extremely skittish. I've had many bettas and never had this one this scared before. Even scared of feeding. I had him about 2 weeks and it's not getting better. Any ideas? I'd ask some questions like what could be different? So, have you had a betta living in that tank at that spot before? The reason I ask that is like shadows matter a lot. Like a loud TV can matter, an overhead light matters. Um, having only 2 weeks, it could be just shy and skittish, but other things you can do is try putting things on the side and the back so it feels like it's in a cave. So when you have a scared animal, what do? They back into a corner. So they know, like, okay, I'm in the corner. Nothing can get me from behind. I can keep my eyes out here. Well, if you're in the center of a yard, right, you got to watch 360, you're way more nervous. So in an aquarium, if there's no background and no sides and the front's open, they feel like they're in the middle of the yard trying to keep an eye for anything that's going to attack them. So if you put something on the sides and the back, it now feels like, okay, I'm backed up. I just got to look this way, and I have to be less on guard. And so, and that could be as easy as like, oh, I put books on the side and the back, or I had some construction paper, or I had a black trash bag that I taped to the sides and the back. Any of those could help. Lots of plants could help. Um, so then you've isolated to, it can only interact with you from the front. And then take a look at your surroundings and go, when I walk up to the tank, is there any backlighting? So if there's light, kind of see how there's some light behind me, how it's creating shadows on my shirt. Well, that can be in the aquarium, and that can, they could think like, oh, it's a big predator fish causing, that in the aquarium. You could have a TV across the room that's, we've all seen that late at night. Someone's got a TV on, it's making the whole room light up, and there's like shadows in like a window, right? Well, your aquarium's just like that window, and if it's getting that treatment, it's gonna, make them think there's a lot going on outside. So even if you walk up to feed the tank and there's nothing else on, if they're getting that a few hours a day, they're waiting for that predator that's outside where they are to get them. And so maybe some isolation to try and have less inputs will help it adjust. And then I also think just over time, it will adjust. It gets used to whatever's going on and knows, hey, that's not threatening. Chickens love duckweed? They do. There's also a weird thing about fish food where hobbyists won't adopt some things. Like some of the best food I ever used for growing fish had like pig blood in it and other things, because like the protein contents and like ground up chicken feathers. And when you process something, it can actually turn into something that fish can thrive off of. But if you're looking at an ingredient level, you'd be like, oh, no way, this has got to be low quality. And it turns out that that's not always the case. Um, but yeah, it's not viable commercially, because we as a hobby would say, no, they're not meant to eat that. But now that I see fish in the wild more and more, and you watch them eating on like a cow carcass and stuff, it's like more and more weird stuff is believable, because you'll see them just eating on anything in moderation, I think. Do I have any experience weaning autosynclists onto algae wafers and blanched vegetables? Well, I have experience of them not doing it, basically. Someone left a comment that they said they were able to get them onto, what was it? I think they were claiming blanched cucumber, and they've been keeping them for decades. I haven't found that. I haven't had that kind of good luck. I'm not saying it's impossible, but as a store owner, let's say we touch, I don't know, 10,000, no, maybe not 10,000, like 5,000 a year or something. We might be able to say, hey, yeah, we did blanched cucumber, or like green beans or something like that. We can get like 10% maybe to get on them. And I think that'd be more than we could actually get onto it. What we do is we find that the best we can get out, or autosynclists to do, is when we bring them in, we put them into the tank that we've grown the most algae in. So we will look and go, hey, this has got a lot of algae on the glass sides and all that. And we'll put a group of 50 of them in there. They'll clean it the first night, but that really does wonders to get their gut biome going again. And then long term at like aquariums, like at home, it's, like 150 gallons, like cool, maybe like 3 maximum. So that they've got a lot of grazing opportunities. And yeah, I haven't found, I guess the answer is, I don't have a great answer for what could I artificially feed autosynclists where they will take to it really well. I've tried everything I've ever seen out there, and I can always get some to do some of the things, but not enough where it's like everybody should be doing this. It's a guaranteed win. It's more like you can try these 10 things, and then people go like, "Yeah, all of them kind of worked a bit, but none's the answer we're looking for." My autos love canned green beans. They fight with the shrimp and snails over them. Good. Yeah. We find that, when you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds and thousands, like canned green beans and like probably blanched zucchini and stuff are probably like the most likely that they'll take two. But it's not, if we have 50 in there, you'd be like, those 7 of them are going nuts for it. The other 43 don't want anything to do with it. Like, dang it. So I'd be looking for more like 47 of them love it. 3 of them aren't eating it. Like, okay, that's a pretty good solution, I think. Because I have had tanks where, for whatever reason, like that group of autos in like if in a tank here, let's say I had 3 and like they love the green beans. I've had that experience. But then you try to deploy that through multiple like store tanks and facilities and stuff. You're like, yeah, but it doesn't see the same adoption rate. Is that different collection locales? Is that, I mean, it's from the same cans sometimes. So I don't think it's like a variation in the green bean. I'm not sure. I like having water sit outside for mosquitoes to lay larvae for my pet betta, but sometimes I forget and a bunch of mosquitoes are flying around. Here in Washington, there's kind of like so much standing water anyway that it's not really too much of a problem if you don't harvest them fast enough. There's a lot of like semi-wet creek beds and just all that kind of stuff. But maybe where you are, it dries out, and you would be making lots of mosquitoes for people. I was watching down at my pond a week or two ago. The birds were catching like dragonflies out of the air. It was pretty cool. Like, whoa. And to me that's a sign that our property is going in the right direction. Because I hadn't really seen that before, even though I sit out there a lot over the years looking at it. And so I think we're creating the right environment that we're inviting those birds. And we've always had a billion dragonflies. Like they breed up a storm in the pond and everything. But to see the birds grab them out of the air, I thought they were attacking me. So like for earlier in the week, I was like, man, there must be a nest around here. Like these birds, I'm pretty sure like they're dive bombing me. Like what is going on? And so then I was just sitting on the new dock, and I was like, wait, no, they're just grabbing the dragonflies. The dragonflies keep flying over in that area, and they grab them right out of the air. That's crazy. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, we were talking about mosquito larvae. I was like, how did I get on that tangent? I fall in love with Pandagaras, my go-to alligator of autos and plecos. They are great. I've got some in the 800 gallon right now, and doing awesome. Steenfot's got an old video where he bred them. He like reposted it a couple weeks ago. I was like, whoa, did you breed those? He's like, well, a really long time ago. I was like, oh. I was about ready to ask him all the questions. How do you do it? Teach me. My nephew is breeding fancy tail guppies, endlers, and special snails. He says he watches you for help. Thank you for providing useful info to him and others. Well, I'm glad. Hopefully he's at a point where he's trading with other hobbyists, or maybe trading with the fish store or something like that. This hobby, I think, pretty much only exists because of hobbyist trading. I think the hobby would be too boring if we didn't. Even if it's like, oh, I will pay to buy fish from a collector. The collectors, they don't get nearly the variety that we have in stores. Like a store like mine. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to say, not eloquently. A store like mine would be super duper boring because we would never be able to afford to bring in fish from all around the world. So what I mean is, let's say we needed like rummy nose tetras and cardinal tetras and apistos and all of that. Like, yes, we could order from, South America, and here's our shipment. But then we wouldn't have any of the Asian fish. We wouldn't have any of the domesticated, like man-made stuff. And the fact that we have hobbyists that can breed in their own fish room, and then they sell to other hobbyists and sell to stores and sell to wholesalers, it makes it so we get this great mix of fish that are available at pet stores. And so I think without that hobbyist part of it, and Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's always been people that own an aquarium, and then there's been hobbyists, and I don't consider those to be two of the same things. Like someone that owns one betta is a much different person than someone that runs 12 fish tanks in a fish room. They're just completely different segments of the market. And so without the people that do run 12 fish tanks and try to breed some fish and do that, I think this hobby would be much worse off for it. And so, yeah, hopefully your nephew passes some stuff along to the next person, and then they pass to the next person, and we all get new things. Did I get any shade out of my dock yet? Nope. I was looking at it yesterday, wanting to sit there, but it was too hot. Um, Hopefully in the next month it gets installed. So I bought a gazebo, an Amazon special for $800, and the shipping was $200, so it's $1,000. And it's sitting in the boxes, and I've got our like builder contractor guy that we use for the store and here and stuff like that. He's gonna put it together and anchor it to the dock and all of that, and we'll hope that I measured correctly and bought the right size. We don't have to do anything too crazy. At the same time, we want to set up power at the end of the dock to plug in the auto feeder for the fish, and so um, that could that literally could start as soon as tomorrow. But he's got other clients and other jobs, and so being in the middle of summer, it's like, oh, it's a really good time to put in a fence for somebody. This project's been waiting on that. Just like last summer, in August, he had to fit us in because the water level got the lowest, so he could put the new piers for the dock in, because it don't want to have to do it underwater. Concrete, I'm sure, is harder to work with underwater than it is water receded enough back, put in the new pillars. Um, so yeah, I'm hopeful that I'll get to spend some pond time, not under the scathing sun, this month. Yeah. So each year, I've been daydreaming about the pond and all of that, and we're getting closer to fruition. I was just thinking about this last week. We had a big scare. My wife came in. I was working, and she comes in like, Fish and Wildlife are here," and I just kind of, because we've always had a good relationship, but it's always unnerving to have like one of the governing bodies show up to work or something like that, and it's kind of like, what can we do for you? And it just turns out they were wanting to look at like the creek. They're following the creek up as high as they can because they want to do some. Oh, they're working on the freeways here, and they're trying to size up water flow and any fish or anything like that, so that when they build the new freeway over the water, I guess they want to make sure that they size the pass-throughs correctly and stuff like that. But anyway, it was fun to kind of lead them around the property and show them what we're doing to try and preserve nature. And I showed them the pond, and here's the outlet, and we connected it back to the creek so it comes in and goes out. And it, I guess like a few miles down or whatever, there's a guy that says he gets maybe some salmon every 4 or 5 years if all the conditions are right. We got to have like a heavy rain season. It's got to not be too hot. It's got to be all the things. And yeah, and then that just leads out to the sound or saltwater. So, but it was they seemed appreciative that I actually care. Like so many people just don't care. I'm like, no, I'm trying to care. Like we're planting here, trying to keep the bank from eroding, so you can see it eroded there. So we kind of are trying to build that back up. And we're trying to keep this manageable and good for nature. So I'm excited. Ooh, I'm gonna do it real time. Yesterday on Saturday, I installed I got like I guess it's a automatic water thing. So it connects to a hose. It's got a float valve. It refills with water. I'm trying to provide water to the coyotes and the deer that are on our property, because they'll come to the pond, but it's like that bed. They're sketched out. There's so much to look for. They're like, I feel exposed getting this water, getting this drink. So I set up we have a hose and everything. So I set it up more in the bush, and we've got a camera on it so I can see if we've seen deer and coyotes down there. There's lots of coyote scat down there. So I want to see if they've found and have taken a drink yet. Answer is no. I've got no events on my camera, so they have not found the new watering hole that I've installed for funsies. How's the koi doing in the pond? I think a majority of the ones I brought from my old house have been eaten by the bald eagles. There's herons and owls and everything hunting in that pond every night. There are, well, I haven't seen new babies of them this season yet, but every year I see baby koi, or well, I guess I can't even be sure they're baby koi, but I think they're baby koi because there's also shubunkins in there, and there's tons of tadpoles and everything. So there's a whole medley of stuff for birds to be eaten, and I think the what am I trying to say? I'm trying to build an ecosystem, right? So the dock actually providing some cover over the water because now it's longer, and then being able to set up an auto feeder, and then spending more time, and then starting like there's air, and I worked on another air thing that I'm still working on. So as I keep making these improvements, I think we're gonna be able to better reach an equilibrium where I can breed more fish than the birds will eat. Um, which is my goal. So we'll see. Like, I just want to look down and be like, yeah, there's a lot of fish. This is fun, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm a big believer in the animals have just as much right, if not more right, to the land that I own than I do. So I try to work with animals, not against them, and I try to, guide them if I'm like, hey, quit eating my fish out of my pond because that's my rice fish. Like, eat down here at this bigger pond, or here I've put out food for you, or try to guide them away from the thing I want to do. Is this going to be every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 3 or 2 p.m. Eastern? That is my goal. What have we been, maybe 3 weeks in a row now? And yeah, so I used to do the Sunday live streams for many years, and then it was like Tuesday nights, it's been Wednesday nights, it's been Friday nights over the years. And yeah, my goal is to get back into a routine of, Sundays we hang out, we talk about fish, we do our aquarium maintenance, we eat tacos, we talk about cookies, we talk about the new products and the business and all of that. And there's been a lot of friends over the years that you get out of aquariums, but you still listen in, and um, it's fun to see people come and go. And so I think this is a service I can provide. I don't know how to some days, like today, I didn't really want to go live. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to work on my sprinklers. Like, if I'm being honest, I was thinking my new sprinklers arrived yesterday, but I didn't have time. Yeah, I want to work on my sprinkler project because I'm literally thinking about if I if I put more water on the clover, it'll be more dense, which means more bees, which means more snakes, which means more things. And but now that I'm actually, once I get into it, I'm like, oh, I'm having a blast. And then that's why I end up going like, oh, you went longer than you're supposed to. Like, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, so maybe if it's not too hot today, I'll see what temperature it is outside. What time? Oh, it's only 70 outside right now, so I might mess with my sprinklers afterwards. Maybe the auto feeder will just help concentrate the food source for the eagles and herons. Yeah, it definitely could, but I think so. Being at the end of the dock, the food's going to drop down, and I think the koi are going to be able to like be under the dock, and I think that's going to help them a ton. But I don't know. There's lots for me to learn. And I really enjoy it. I've said it before, like when a raccoon or something starts messing with my ponds, like in my little ponds, I go, dang it. And then I kind of get excited because I have to outsmart the raccoon. Like maybe I'll ask Dean if I can come film, but he's got a really fun anti-raccoon system set up on his rice fish ponds right now. And he made it so good at keeping raccoons out. He made it so it could like hurt a human, and then he had to figure out how to fix it so it wouldn't hurt a human while he's doing his maintenance on the pond and stuff. So I think I think most people enjoy it. I enjoy it. No one wants to be like, hey, you ate all my fish or you chewed on my sponge filter, but I think we all get a good sense of satisfaction of like when you win, where you're like, oh, Yeah, you're choosing to eat the cat food at the neighbor's house instead of my fish now, or whatever. Long-time watcher. I've been breeding red cauliflower swords, and have fish ready to sell. And a local store asked what I want for them. How do I know what a fair price is? Uh, that's a good question. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I'm going to try to keep this short because this could be a whole topic. If they're already selling them, 1/3 of what they sell them for is a pretty okay starting point. Um, if you've got something, it's like, but these are way better quality, or I paid $500 for the trio online. Like, people aren't going to buy them for that kind of price in a retail store. The other way to work it would be like, well, what does it cost you to make them? Like, or what would you be, so if I said, hey, I'll buy every one of those you make, I'll give you 1 penny each. You go, I would never do that. Well, clearly the answer is not a penny. But if you go, like, I know they weren't cauliflower swords, but I had a person that I still think they're the best sword tails. His name was Curtis. If you're still listening, shout out to Curtis. When I worked at Call Me Tropical Fish, he made the nicest just red sword tails I'd ever seen. They were always great, healthy, big, bold red color. I would love to get that line and keep it going right now, in fact. But he basically always, I want to say it was like I think it started at $1. And then at some point he's like, hey, I think I'm just losing money on this. He really enjoyed breeding the swords. And I want to say at the end, it was like $2 per sword tail. And this would have been, you know, I'm trying to think, like 15 plus years ago. So, you might go, hey, maybe it's worth it to you to go, hey, I need $3 per sword tail. And there's a big thing to think about, though, is like these sword tails were nice and big bodied, not including the sword. If you're going, well, I want to sell them at this size, well, like, yeah, maybe it's 50 cents each. Like, that doesn't really help the fish store. But maybe you're going, I got the best ones anyone's ever seen, and I want $5 each. And that might work too. Like, one of the people I'm still friends with, go over to their house every few times a year. When I worked at Conway Tropical Fish, I sold stuff personally on Aquabid because I wasn't making enough money at that pet store. And the deal we had worked out was every fish they bred, I paid them $5. That didn't matter if it was a guppy, if it was a discus, if it was a rare pisto, if it was a shell dweller, if it was a achille. My cost was $5. They didn't care what I sold it for on Aquabid. My obligation was I had to take all of them. So if they go, hey, I have 62 killifish, I had to pony up, what is that, $310? And go, here's $310. But maybe that killifish sells for $15 each. But it also might take me a year to unload that many killifish. And so there's a lot of little things that go into it of like, how many do you have? How reliable will you be? What would it, you might go, oh, I'm in a high rise in New York, rent's $1 billion, electricity is $1 billion, all the things. Less than $5, I literally wouldn't, I'd be losing money. Like, and that might be the reality. It also might be, oh man, I've got all these ponds with nothing in them. I just scoop fish out once a year and I make money. Like, I'd take $1 a piece because I got thousands of them. Any of those things could work. And you got to find what's going to work for you, but also what works for that store. And, usually you can get a good rapport going, and maybe the first fish, like, I'm selling them a little cheap. Usually if they're doing really well, you can raise the price on it. And we recognize that. Like, we're always unsure when we buy from a breeder, like, I wonder if people actually want these. Like, let's go a little bit conservative, and then maybe after, a few months or a few batches or whatever, you come to us, go, hey, I really do need some more money. We go, yeah, they're selling really well. We can afford to give you some more money, and we could, maybe the price has to go up. Maybe we were selling them at $9.99. Now we'll sell them at $11.99, but we'll give you more money, and because people are buying us out. And you work with the breeder, or we work with the breeder, or you work with the store and figure out what the right price is for both you guys long term. Let's see here. Someone made a comment that I was enjoying, but I scroll off my screen. It was something like, if Jimothy comes and eats my fish, I'll let him. Oh yeah, but Jimothy is welcome to some of my fish if he wants. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Jimothy, what is it, spina bifida or whatever, like the raccoon with a weird spine. It's the cutest little thing. I mean, I'm infatuated with raccoons in general. Like they're just quirky little creatures. I'm starting a 7.5 gallon shrimp tank. I'm almost done with the 2 month cycle. I'm starting to see my plants flourish. I was wondering if you have have any suggestions. If you haven't watched my take on getting a shrimp tank ready, or my video on that, I would. But mostly making sure you got a decent amount of algae in there, and then you know you just start adding because you've done it's been set up for quite a long time. In my video, I go into, in a perfect world, I like to keep fish in the tank first. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, let's say you had fish in the tank and you fed them for 2 months and they pooped in the tank for 2 months. That is a very different ecosystem than plants are thriving, but no fish poop or anything like that's been going on in there, and it's at 2 months. And so when you have, like, let's say that 2 months of fish poop grown into the gravel or the substrate and the mulm and the microfauna and everything that goes with that, that is a much better environment for the shrimp to come into and start thriving. And so, I was gonna go with, like, maybe you get like a mystery snail or a couple of nerites or something that you can start feeding to start creating natural poop in there, um, so that it's a good breeding ground for the microfauna that the shrimp want to be eating on when you're not actively feeding them. What's my opinion on probiotic for fish? Um, my opinion as it stands right now is I have never witnessed myself probiotic making a meaningful difference in a fish. I've witnessed, like, the cobalt one, that probiotic flake, like the blue one, they just don't want to eat it. So whatever version that wasn't palatable. Um, I could totally be convinced that, like, a research paper would show how beneficial it was. I just not sure if we have a commercial product that does that for fish food yet that fish like to eat. And I don't know how I don't know that many people have done some long-term testing of, uh, same fish. This one's getting the probiotic, this one's not. Here's what we're seeing. We're seeing these mortality rates at this year or whatever. I think it comes back to the aquarium industry just doesn't have that kind of funding to do those tests, and so a lot of it, you know, vibe coding and all that. I want to say, like, we're all down to, like, fish room vibes. My fish room science is purely like fish room vibes, and everyone gets their own version of that. Of, like, I totally think this thing's doing a thing, and maybe it is, and maybe it's not. It's hard to, without me being able to replicate things over and over. I'm a skeptic on everything to start, and then I have to, if I win myself over, then I'm a true believer and, like, oh yeah, this thing totally works because I've seen it with my own eyes. For all the great things you've done for the hobby, improving fish retail, what's the next you want to do and see improvement in the fish hobby? I honestly, I don't know. I don't think there's a way you can answer that question that won't be taken out of context by somebody and be like, this guy is so full of himself. But if I was genuinely trying to answer the question truthfully, I think we've got an incredibly long way to go with improving, like, the retail store experience United States wide. Like, there's stores that do an incredible job, much better than we do, and then there's stores that are like, I'm not sure they should even be open. And everything in between, and, like, there's stores that were really good and through staff changes become much worse. And the opposite of, like, oh, they started getting the right team and that store is amazing. I love it. Um, and so I still think there's a long way to go with figuring out what retail stores do in 2026 to 2030. More and more fish get sold online all the time. More products get sold online. The in-store experience is, I think, an important one, and figuring out what else can we do that caters to that. It used to be like, you have to go in person to buy fish. Now you can buy them online, or I see, some of our partner stores even, where you can buy fish and they'll get DoorDash to you. I think it's fine, but I think we're missing out on the, uh, and I don't know exactly how to say it, but we're missing out on the experience. Like, the most efficient our retail store ever was during COVID, when no one could come in the store legally. We made more money than we ever did because people waited outside. They had a list. I need these dry goods and I want these fish. The employee would round all that up, ring them up, boom, they were out. Next one. And everyone was stuck inside. But what the problem was, there was no venue to fall in love with a new fish. And that, I think, is that magical part for me when I'm in a fish store. You're just, yeah, Celestial Pearl Danios. Oh, okay, there's those. What is this? I've never seen this before. That is super cool looking. I need this. That part disappears. And I don't think online does that well, because here's a picture, here's a little video of it in a specimen cup or something. And I don't think that allows the wandering experience of like, oh wow, yeah, I need that. And so figuring out how we convince people that are new to the hobby that that's a very important thing, because there's for all of that, there's also like, this employee was really annoying, or it smelled bad in there, or this thing happened, or traffic was bad, it was a long drive, this thing was happening. And you know but it is so easy to click a button and fish show up at your door. So I think that's I guess what I would say is, if there's been improvement that has been based on Aquarium Co-op, that's awesome. I still feel like there's so much to do and so much further to go, um, that it's like almost overwhelming. And then I still haven't figured out how to connect with more store owners. So there's some that just, we link up and it's great, and like, you can see it. Their stores like inspired by our store. They're doing cool things. Like Ethan at Fishmania did a commercial that I shared the other day, where it was talking about how we package our things really well. My wife loved it, you know, because it was funny, and she's like, "Oh, that was so clever and so good," and I was like, "Yeah, I agree." And so there's some that will like connect, but then there's others where we might have a conversation like, "You're wrong," and it's not that we're always right, but it's like, sure, maybe we're wrong, but also you're getting bad reviews from your customers. So if we're wrong and all your customers are wrong, what are the odds that everybody around you is wrong and only you're right? Not often in life is that true. Um, and so I haven't found how to connect. We tried, making videos every month. There'd be a new video for the retail stores of like, here's something I think I've learned. It helped our business. Hopefully it'll help your business. And we found that we have like 250 stores or whatever, and we'd get less than 10% would even take a peek at the video. So whether they watched it full length or not, I don't know, but it'd be in the newsletter. We try and get them to watch it, and they wouldn't. And so that was, it's not, maybe it's like the information wasn't applicable to them. Maybe they don't have the time for them. Maybe it's not the right format. Maybe I'm bad at delivering the information. Maybe I haven't built up the trust that information I'm trying to give out would be truthful. I'm not sure. So I still think there's a whole lot of work to be done in that segment of stores and things like that before I would try and move on to before I would say, hey, we've done that well, let's move on to another thing we want to tackle, I guess, is the long way of saying all that. Have there ever been a situation where the power went out and it was either real cold or real hot and you lost fish? I definitely have had it where there's been snow on the ground and it's gotten cooler. But no, I don't think so. I would say at the store and home, I don't think, let me think. I'm sure I must have lost like some fish, but what I'm talking about is like, if we have 10,000 fish in a store and the power's out for 2 days and I lose 9 fish, I don't even consider that like I've lost fish. I think when we think about that, we're thinking like, yeah, was half all the fish sick? Did they all get ick? Was it a major problem? And I think the answer is, knock on wood, we've never had a major problem when it comes to like a power outage. And I think part of it is we have some skills, but then we also have some backups. Like I think not always, but like within the first 6 months of opening the store, I ended up buying a generator because the power went out and it was getting iffy. And I learned a very valuable experience of like when I needed it, because I ended up buying that generator after the power went out again, because it was like the second time in like a few months. And I couldn't get one the first time. And then I did the whole like, I really need to buy one of those. And no one wants to buy a generator because like it's like $400 that I'm never going to use until you need it. And then it's worth $1 million to you, right? And so went out again. And then I remember I was sitting at a Harbor Freight because I was buying like the cheapest one because I couldn't afford it. We had like no money in the store when the store opened. And I remember getting up an hour early and getting in line before Harbor Freight opened to try and buy one to bring it to the store. And we did get one. And I felt very fortunate. And that same one is still at the store, 12 years later or 13 years later. And it sits there we got it on a wheelie dolly. We pull it out once a year. We make sure the fuel's still stabilized. We fire it up, make sure employees know how to use it. There's a couple of like, I think 100-foot extension cords that sit on top of it ready to go because I've done it. It's like you need everything where everyone knows where it is and it's sitting there because the power's out. You've got your phone or a flashlight, finding the thing, dragging it out. And, but I think we've learned that, we've got our system. We basically don't do anything for the first 8 to 16 hours. And we also, I guess we don't stock our fish to a level that we've seen too many problems. I guess maybe that's helpful. I'm sure there's been times where tanks have been, and if the power went out, we would have been in a problem there. But, yeah, but I think we think about that stuff. And so like our battery powered air pumps, if we had one tank or two tanks having a problem, we would just pull them out of the package and put them on because they're charged in the box and run it before we would run a whole generator. And most power outages around here are resolved in like 12 hours, maybe a day. We had one here that was like 5 days. And so we do have here, I've got a whole house generator, for the house. And I've got an extension cord sitting in the closet here in the fish room that goes from our house. I plug it in the garage and it comes in here and I plug in the air pump. Now I've got a new thing, which I have not done all the testing and I keep telling myself, and I am definitely not prepared. But now that I have an electric car, it has a power outlet. My new plan without testing, and I really should test, is to just drive my car, right over here, which is, it's like 50 feet or something, and plug the extension cord into the car. And what I don't know and what I'm going to get burned by when the power's out, it's cold, it's raining, it's dark or whatever, is I don't know on my car, is there like, you plug a thing in it, is it automatically going to turn off every hour? Is there a sequence of buttons I can press to say, hey, allow power to that thing for 24 hours? Like all of those things, I don't have it. But I also have 2 battery backups. I have one on this air pump here, and I have one in the tech closet that runs the wireless router, and I can plug in the air pump there. And like the battery I have for this air pump will run the air pump, one of the air pumps, because I run 2 for this fish room because the 800 gallon's so deep. But let's say no air to the 800 gallon, or I put in the little pluggable or the rechargeable one. It'll run the one air pump that runs all the other tanks for 5 days. So, and that battery was like $1,000, so it's not cheap. But before that, I would use much smaller batteries and like battery banks. And, you might have a battery bank for your phone when you travel or something. Being able to recharge those in a car, you start up your car, start charging it, and then that might keep an air pump going overnight while you sleep and things like that. So, But no, we've never had the big catastrophic, oh my gosh, that went horribly wrong. And I'm proud of that because I think that does take planning. And, it's not selfless to, if I lost half the fish at the store, it would cost us probably $50,000, so at some point it's negligence to let that happen. There could always be a perfect storm though of like, it was -2 degrees, the power was out for 9 days, we ran out of fuel, like there always could be that. But what we actually found when I did have the generator and we had a few day power outage at the store. The actual problem we ran into is I lost a bunch of fish food because even right now we have 1, 2, I guess only 2. We're down to 2. That's nice. Um, at the time we had, I think 2 freezers and 2 fridges, and both fridges had lots of live blackworms, so they had to stay cold. And we couldn't keep all of them frozen enough, rotating through the generator. And yeah, that was a decent amount of money lost. Like, oh, there's $800 in food that went bad. Like, that sucks. I want to say I fed most of it to my own fish at home because I'm too cheap to throw it out. Because it wasn't like fully defrosted, but it was defrosted enough where like maybe you had the flat pack, right? Where it should have been nice and flat. Like it was a log because it got, it started, or it got bendy and it kind of got the wrong shape. So, yeah. My aquarium co-op affiliate store has good quality fish, but isn't the fun buying experience that another store is. Uninspired is a word for it. Also, aquarium co-op products are overpriced. Yeah, we can't police what they sell the products for. And then I think you're describing that thing that we're like wanting to impart on other stores. And let's say half the stores have it, but when you're selling a fish, sure, you're selling a physical fish, but you're also selling the excitement, the experience, oh man, it's gonna be so fun when it breeds, when that plant gets bigger, we want more of it. Like you're selling, I guess, the whole hobby. And without that package in the retail store, why wouldn't I just buy it online, have it shipped to my door? Like I guess that's and maybe at some point uh I'll do some more, which I haven't done in quite a few years now. I'll do some more like vendor talks and stuff. Like I used to do them at Aquatic Experience, and then I've done some at Aquashellas, where I talk to industry people and store owners and try to package that up and be like, this is what you're selling. This is what the people want. Because otherwise, why wouldn't they buy their cherry shrimp on Amazon? You can go buy cherry shrimp on Amazon right now. And so if you're not gonna you know, hold their hand if they're new, if you're not going to make them be excited, if you're not going to be their friend, if you're not going to do all of that, they're going to go online. And so that makes being a retail store harder. Let's see. I think when you're talking about when it comes to the retail space, really true. As a young but longtime hobbyist, let's see. I just, in this last 8 months, started a new job at my local fish store, and I love 90% of it, but the 10% is just full of how my upper management doesn't care when things that are bad still happen. Like we're guilty of beta cups and all the young staff hate it, but it falls on deaf ears. Yeah, I mean that can be hard. And why I say that is, as an employee, which I have been myself, it's easy to think you have a solution, and sometimes you do have a solution, but you go and implement it and it doesn't work, or it causes a different problem or something like that. And when you're new to a job, sometimes you're like, oh, we've tried all those things, they didn't work. Oh, but this is slightly different and it will work. But if it doesn't work, um, maybe it's not your $30,000 that they're going to lose, right? Like they can't take it out of your paycheck. And so there definitely is some people that just get jaded. There is that. And then there's sometimes you don't see the full context. And I definitely learned a lot of that when I started my own store. Like I wasn't seeing the full context of the decision and what it would mean and all of that. But yeah, bettas and cups, not so good. We actually downsized our betta selection because I basically figured out we were losing money on bettas. Our bettas were $19.99 and up, and when I did the math, we still just lose money on bettas, which you'd be like, how is that possible? If you buy a betta for $7 and sell it for 20, when you watch the cameras, on average, a betta buyer is a new hobbyist, and they want to spend a lot of time talking and doing all the thing. And what we saw was by having several hundreds of bettas in the store, it took them a really long time to pick one, tons of questions. So now I'd have to actually like look, but I want to say we're down to like, let me think. We're down to like 60 or 70 bettas, I think. And we sell the same amount of bettas we ever did. I actually have to look at the numbers and see like, do we still lose money on this, or are we like at least breaking even? Because one of my core tenets when I started the business was I wouldn't do anything that I actively knew lost us money, which is way different than donating. Like if we're just donating time or a product or something like that's not doing business and losing money. It's all the hidden things like selling feeder goldfish where it's a loss leader. Like we just go out of our way and we don't do that so that we can stay hopefully profitable forever so that we can pay our employees. Is it weird you tend to place co-op orders during live streams? That is intended, my friend. Uh, that is definitely thought out and planned where it's like we see the patterns of, hey, if you're interacting with Aquarium Co-op, you're making a habit of it, you're more likely to go, yeah, I mean to do that. Like I've been meaning to order blinds for our skylights for like a month. I even told my wife 2 days ago, remind me tonight. I want to order these tonight so they get here so I can put them in, because they keep like every day at 2 p.m. the sun will come through the skylight and just blind me. And I go, oh, I really got to do this. But I'm always in the middle of something. So I'm like, remind me later. And that's what so much of aquarium shopping is I really want to do this thing, but I'm busy right now. And this is meant to give that space of like, hey, I'm watching a video about skylight blinds. I should order mine while I'm watching this or listening to it. And so, yeah, it's a very much intentional. The hope is to get you to set aside some time, work on your tanks. Hey, I'm listening to Aquarium Co-op. I heard about a thing. Maybe I'll buy that. And that's how we justify staying in business, I guess. But thank you for for falling into our evil trap where you listen to us and then you buy our things. I appreciate it. Our local fish store is selling their one betta rack for $300. I would, I would wonder if I was able to pull a bunch, if the people that are actually doing the numbers, if they're seeing the same thing. Like we have a high wage cost. Our employees start at $25 in Washington, with benefits and all the things. So if they're in another state where it's cheaper cost of living, maybe they're not seeing the losing the money on selling a betta. But we have some different challenges. Like, we sell products online for the same price we do in the store, but it's way more expensive to sell it in the store than it is online, because economy of scale and everything like that in Kentucky works in our advantage. We don't have those economies of scale. In fact, we ran into this week, and we're looking into what we're going to do. But so like crushed coral and our plant substrate and all of that, we get from the same manufacturer. And going to Kentucky costs one cost, and going all the way to Washington costs another cost. And I want to say the thing that we sell for $3.99 is now costing us $3.24. And it's like, because the shipping went through the roof this time. We don't know why. And so it's like, well, what do we do? Like, we sell it online. Like, it's gonna look real weird if like, oh, in store, it's $8, and then like, yeah, but online it's $6. Like, why is it like I literally can order online, you'll ship it to my house, and it would be cheaper than if I bought it in store? Like, actually, yes. Like, it's a real weird circumstance. So Randy's looking into it going, okay, let's see. Do we need to change trucking companies? Do we need to change scale? Like what went wrong with this order? And how do we fix this? So would be cool if you could have an East Coast store someday. Yeah, stores they take a crazy amount of time because they're pretty heavy personnel, like amount of employees to square footage and dollar ratios and stuff is pretty high. And then lots of things can go wrong. Like they're still working on the roof. I think I talked about that last Sunday. Yeah, they're still working on the roof. And so the more buildings that I'm responsible for, the more of those things happen where it's like, you can't park in this zone, this is going on, that's going on, you got a fire check going on, you got this going on, we need to be let in to see this thing, you got this going on. So I'm not saying never, but it's also like it's a huge undertaking to have another building filled with water and aquariums. And I think part of it is just landlords don't fully realize the implications on things. So like it's normal for like once a year the building to be sprayed for like bugs, like outside, and they want to do it inside. They want to, whether it's pick ants or I don't know, carpenter ants or spiders or whatever, right? Like one tenant will be like, "Hey, there's a thing going on." And then they want to do the whole building. But each one of those are like, yeah, we just schedule it. And then it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't just walk in and start spraying like a pesticide in this fish store. Like that would be catastrophic. And so then, like I remember we had to change one time they were having it done. We had to move all of our display dry goods and stuff like off the walls. We had to talk with them. They had to use a different non-spray application. They like painted it on with a brush and whatever. And sometimes it's purely just insurance compliance, and so and then you start multiplying that, all these things. And I where I was going with that is I think if you were just like, we're a hairdresser, we're a machine shop, we're something with not live animals, you know they'd just be like, yeah, that's fine, like it's not detrimental. But so many of the things are just forgotten, and then it's like, whoa, 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 okay, we can't just do that. So let's see. Just want to say hi. I watched literally every video, live stream, and podcast pre-COVID up to 2024. I took a break and now I'm back with a single 55 community. Thanks for getting me into the hobby. Well, welcome back, Jonathan. Are we ever going to expand to shipping outside the US? Potentially. So last week, I think I talked about Teespring. Our merch vendor reached out and said, hey, we have a program we do for bands and stuff like that where we ship merch throughout the country or throughout the world. And yeah, there's more cost to get it around the world, but maybe we could pick a few of the merch things you guys do, keep them in stock and ship that, so we could look into numbers and projections and see if that makes sense. And then we also have the I guess, what do I want to call it? Initiative, maybe initiative. One of the initiatives I've still been thinking about quite a lot is figuring out the best way to get products throughout the world through a not a transshipper, through a, what do they call it? Fish is a transshipper. Is it just transshipper? Freight forwarder. That's about freight forwarder. And interviewing them and trying to find, do all the work for you guys. So it's like, hey, this is going to be the best way you could do it. And so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see here. I've been getting freeze-dried cat treats, shrimp, salmon, chicken, and minnows, and occasionally rehydrate them for my turtles. But recently I tried grinding them into my fish, and they go nuts for it. Yeah, fish, I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Basically, fish will eat anything. What's the next big thing in aquariums for the next 10 years? And what's something popular today you think won't be using anymore? hard to say what we won't be using. I don't know about that. I would hope. My hope is that we kind of figure out a way to like not really use heaters like that. I think that is a thing that could be right now happening, but it takes a basically an industry-wide adoption because that's how the aquarium hobby worked like 50 years ago. Heaters were so unreliable and like guppies, you just didn't heat guppies. Why? Because they didn't need it. But now they need, well, they do need them kind of in a roundabout way of like, if your guppy comes from Thailand and it's been sitting in 85-degree water its whole life and you dump it in your basement tank that's sitting at 64 degrees, it's going to have a hard life. But if you get more, you get more local breeders breeding them and they're breeding them in unheated tanks and the stores are keeping them unheated and the wholesalers are keeping them unheated and this and this and this and this. That could be a thing. But what's the next big thing in the aquarium hobby over the next? I think the next big thing is probably the threat. No, not threat's not the right word. The biggest thing on my mind is just direct to consumer cutting out stores. And it's because I see it not just in our hobby, I see it everywhere. Like, I'm sure most of us, if you've been to a restaurant in the last year, maybe you're like me. I am absolutely shocked at the amount of DoorDash, Uber Eats. Like, for every real person in there, there's like 5 drivers for the food service. And I see that everywhere. Petco's, PetSmart's, like everything is like adopting it. And technology has changed. So I'm not even saying like it's the big bad guy or anything, it's good or bad, doesn't matter. It's just the consumer behavior we're changing so that like we basically don't want to leave our house. And I've ranted about that last week. I basically never want to talk to a human. I just want to do my things. And so I think that's that big change of like, okay, so if I'm always at home, I'm with my fish tanks, some of the real things that I should be analyzing is like, at what point do we allow Ubering some fish to your house from our store? That kind of stuff. And same thing from our warehouse. Like, we technically, there could be an option where, well, and I know there's a store that they've laid it out. I've looked at their numbers. It's literally cheaper for them to Uber something to someone's home than it is to ship it, because they live close to the store. And it's a lot of just like the logistics of that. There's also the whole like live fish thing. Like, I wonder what the horror stories are of like someone orders live fish through a DoorDash service, but then there's an emergency at home and like someone has to go, you got to race your dog to the vet, but then there's fish that don't have a thing. Does the driver actually bring them back to the store? Like, what happens? But I think that's the biggest thing on my mind about what's going to be a big change. And it's more and more and more. I see it everywhere. I was reading stuff this morning on, people want to buy a car online. They don't want to go to a dealership because it's a bad experience. And I think the more that we buy stuff online, uh, and we get an experience that's acceptable, right? And then the more we go into an in-person experience, we get an unacceptable thing. We convert to just like, if I'm going to get unacceptable with more hassle, I'd rather take mediocre with no hassle. And so, does that mean that companies need to lean in and be like, well, how do we invent ordering online and it's better than an in-store experience? Do we need to optimize for just making sure they don't have a bad experience? I don't know, but I do think that we are moving that way as a society. I would say, like, rewind 20 years ago, it's probably the conversation we were having about ordering online, as in like Amazon, like, why I just go to the mall or I just go to the place, I buy the thing. And now we're at a point where I would love that. I would love if I could walk into Home Depot and buy the part I want. The problem is, even though it says it's in stock, I get there and then it's not on the shelf and no one can find it. So then I buy the thing online. My wife is ditching me. Let's see here. I see. My wife's gonna go to the food pantry and help organize. Better human than me. I'm always working. Let's see. I noticed the Magic Small Fish Feed has lots of tiny bugs now. When I feed it, there's a floating layer of something, maybe eggshells of where they hatch from. Can I continue feeding it? I've never witnessed that. That's the first report I've heard. I wonder if something got into your food. But to answer the question, I would totally feed it. Like, if it's not detrimental to you, little bugs for the fish, that's exactly what they would want. But I would analyze it and go, did the jar get left open? Is it opening and closing every day? Is it like, oh, you've had it for 7 months? If it I do want to know this, like if you just opened it, you're like, I opened it and it was brand new today, like let me know and I'd want to look into it, but I've never seen or heard of that so far. Cause as most of you that have bought our foods know, we have like the world's strongest seals. You're likely to like break your finger before breaking that seal. Because we have had that happen with other fish food manufacturers and things. And so we take the sealing process very serious. Let's see here. I always think of the Henry Higgins story in the early 60s about keeping hundreds of guppies in dozens of gallon canning jars all over his house, all at room temperatures and daily water changes. Yeah, I mean, if you've read like Stan Schubel's book and other things, like the hobby was vastly different and it totally worked. Tons of enjoyment, but we've painted ourselves into like this is what an aquarium experience looks like. And I think that's why people well, that's gonna sound wrong, but that's not my intention. I think that's one of the reasons people would be drawn to L.R. Brett's and Father Fish and anybody keeping aquariums differently because they're outside of the box. And I think we all know in the back of our minds, like, there's no real rules to this. We're all figuring out for ourselves. I'm gonna watch what these people are doing because they're figuring out new things over in this way and this way and this way. And I think it's our job as a hobbyist to go, ooh, I like that piece. I want this piece. I want this piece. I think of it like, there's all the foods around the whole world. I don't have to say, I only eat Mexican food. I get to go, I'm having this tonight. I'm having that tomorrow. I'm having this for lunch. I like that. I'm burned out of this. My palate changed. I don't like this anymore. You get to do all of those things. And I think fish keeping is the same way. I see it with new hobbyists, but you're totally allowed to keep stingrays in this tank, African cichlids here, flower horns there, guppies here, goldfish there, whatever you like, you're allowed to keep. Nothing is cooler or 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 worse than something else. It's I've said this over the years so many times. Even something as simple as white clouds is one of the coolest things ever. The fact that we get to keep fish in a box in our homes is mind-blowing. And then the fact that I can get a fish from basically anywhere in the world to keep as a pet is super cool. So, yeah. Sometimes I order isopods online, but normal I love to go to the store, but I'm getting old. Yeah, there is a very real portion of that too, which I don't have the statistics for, but let's say when I go to like the restaurant and there's 5 Door Dashers for every 1 person eating, they could all be people that are the elderly, are at home sick, are have a handicap that prevents them from that, don't own a car. Like there's all the things. And I'm not even going on my way to say that's detrimental. I'm just purely observing what's going on, going, this could be a huge market segment I'm missing. Could be the way the market's going. I'm not sure. It's catching my attention. I'm going to pay more attention to it and try to figure that out. I just realized that Z-Wing PK had another comment about that before the comment I read. And it was like, first time catches live. I bought a Magic Small Fish Feed and Easy Pellets in June 2025. I bought the 16-ounce cans because I'm in India and I wanted to get the most carried. I see. Yeah, I personally would just keep feeding it. But, it's one of those, like, you do you if you're sketched out or something, but, my guess, because I've had that happen where I've had, like, a thing of food, like, I had it happen to my auto feeders once, where like, because bugs will get in if I have the garage door open or something like that. I've had that happen, yeah, so, but I just keep feeding. Little bit extra bugs for them. Let's see, I gotta refresh my chat here. I still value taking my kids into the world to shop in real life. There's so many skills involved in real life shopping. Yeah, so I am the first person to admit I never want to leave my house. My wife will force me, and I always have a great time. And even when she says, "You're gonna have a great time," I don't want to because I like being at home with my fish and doing my hobbies. And then, like, when she took me to the zoo, I had a blast. Rode the, what, is it the carousel? Yeah, rode the carousel, had some Greek food. We used the photo booth. We saw giraffes. Got to see crazy bear sloth eating. If you ever are around the Woodland Park Zoo, look to do the feeding thing where they put on a show with the bear sloths. It will blow your mind. I did not know that's how bear sloths ate, and they have a very good visual that is super duper fun. Highly recommend it. But that being said, when I went to that trip, or when I went to the zoo, I never knew about bear sloths, and that was clearly a highlight. It was awesome. And so that's that window shopping fish. Like, you don't know what you don't know till you see it, and it's easy at home to be like, I don't want to do that. I got everything I want at home. But you don't know what you don't know yet. So, is the Seattle Zoo the one with the awesome shark tank? That one might be the Point Defiance Zoo down in Tacoma. Yeah, I didn't get to check out the penguins. There was too many people looking at penguins. I wanted to look at them, but it was busy. Yeah, and I went to the adults only Woodland Park Zoo, so I got to hear the animals making sounds to the kids just screaming. But I just don't want to put my shoes on or see people. You're not wrong. I know 18 or 19-year-olds who have never touched actual money and have no idea how to carry out a phone conversation. Those are things that can be optional. Yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't talk on the phone. My wife does all the talking on the phone, and it's actually just, uh, I would say, trauma response from growing up poor. When the phone rang, it was bill collectors or shutting our power off or whatever, and so having picked up the phone when younger, it, like, traumatized me, and so I still live in fear that each phone call is bad news or some situation I don't want, and so I just don't. Like, I wanna say if you looked at our bill, my wife and I maybe have talked on the phone once a month on average, maybe? It's always text or something like that, so it's one day, folks, not a separate zoo. Yes, the, uh the adult only zoo day. It's a day once a year, I guess. And it includes all the food was free. So I had like a little ice cream sandwich. We had some Greek food. We had some pretzels and beer cheese. The photo was free. The carousel ride was free. And I say free. The ticket was like $90. So it ain't free, but once you're in, anything you want to do, you can do. You can check out any animal. You can do anything. It was a fun day. Let's see here. I do want a penguin. Yeah. Let's see. We still got 15 minutes left. All right. All right. All right. We got some time left. Let's see here. What are our thoughts on hill stream loaches as algae eaters. I've heard that some people say they're poor algae eaters, while others say they eat all sorts of algae. In my experience, they only kind of eat flat algae on glass, like diatom algae and things. I don't see them eat hair algae. Do I like them as algae eaters? I do. Do I recommend them? I do, because they're just great pets anyway. But I think normally when you have a tank, it takes like a little army. Like, okay, I want one of those, I want 2 of these, I want 6 shrimp, I want a snail, and all those together will polish off a lot of types of algae. I used to always shop for Christmas at stores. Now they've made it next to impossible. Everything online, shopping stocks are limited. Yeah, and I do think that I do think that's a worthwhile experience. There are definitely memories of going shopping, seeing the window displays, seeing everyone in Christmas spirits, all of that. The last time I had that was probably like 5 years ago in Hawaii, because they had we were in Maui, and they, like, the mall did a thing where it's like they had Christmas carolers, and then they had, like, I think, like, Christmas bingo. They had, things where you could, like, take the names off the tree and buy presents. We did that for some kids. And then they also had like the fake bubbles to make like snow, which you don't get snow really in Hawaii, but they had the spirit. And maybe that's, maybe it's a little woo or whatever, but there's like that spirit or that essence of the retail shopping experience that I don't think we can provide online. But it's that whole, is it worth it? I don't know that I'm willing to pay that much more for it. I don't know. I definitely don't want a bad experience. And I think what we're seeing is just like, there's less people partaking, which means there's less effort going into the following year. And so there's like, it's slowly getting worse, and there's less options. Like one of our things I'm trying to do this year, and my wife is on it, is the goal is to go to the state fair. I haven't been in so many years, but we need a king corn dog. I need to throw some overpriced darts at a balloon and win a stuffed animal that's 12 cents that cost me $26. I need to ride some rides. I need to do that thing. I need to walk around and get wood chips into the back of my shoes. Yeah. So trying to get back into some of that, touching grass things. I never talk on the phone anymore. I had a laryngectomy. No one will understand me on the phone. Which is the converse thing, right? Like, on one hand, DoorDash could be you're just being lazy. Or you had an accident and you can't drive anymore. Same thing, like texting, probably amazing for Cali Kev. Yeah. Anyone else bummed the Keystone Clash got canceled? And a benefit of taking time off of YouTube? Corey, I absolutely love the new setup behind you. Well, thank you. It's only a couple weeks old, and not much changed, really. That's the crazy part. Kind of upsized it from, I added these 2 shelves and this fake window, and but yeah, kind of reinvigorated myself as well. Where's the state fair? It's the Evergreen State Fair, and well, I mean, there's a few. There's like the Puyallup State Fair, and then there's Evergreen State Fair. There's things like Destruction Derby, Monster Truck Days. There's just the normal fair stuff. I was gonna say the normal fair, but that doesn't really work because, yeah. You're still stuck at work? Me too. I'm stuck at work as well. And people are so rude and self-involved anymore. I do think that is true, as in, let's say 20, 30 years ago, 1 in 10 people were openly rude. Now I think we're probably at like the same amount, but then there's like 3 out of 10 that are unintentionally rude because they're hanging out at home and just society has changed a little bit. But then I also think there's still like 6 out of 10 super cool people to interact with when you're out. And what I did notice when I was at the zoo, I turned into Corey's out in public Corey, and it's exhausting because I go way over the top with thanking everyone. Like I remember the carousel person, I thanked them like, thanks for working today. I had such a blast. I haven't been on a carousel in so many years. Like I present myself way different, and I'm being genuine though. Like it was a blast, and I hadn't done it in so many years, and I genuinely wanted them to know that they helped like facilitate a thing for my wife and I because they worked on that Saturday in the heat for this thing, and it meant a lot to me. So I still think there's a bunch of good people out there, but I do think there's like somehow it feels off a bit. But if you look for it, you'll see a bunch of it. If you try and brush it off, you'll see most of the good people's having a good time. Let's see here. I could swear Zenzo said his hill streams are eating algae off his decorative mountains. Yeah, they are, but I think it's mostly the like the diatom algae, not really hairy algae. Heading to the Ventura County Fair last day and don't want to see all those people, but my son has artwork displayed from his school. Nice. I also think there's a weird I think there's a weird thing where when I go out in public and I don't have a good time, it makes me appreciate my home more. So what I'm really saying is I can't really lose. I can go out and have a great time, or I can go out and hate it, and then I like being at home more. I started hobby watching videos in 2020. I've grown in the hobby so much since starting there. I now compete in aquascaping competitions, live and international. Awesome, Nismo. Good luck. We're talking about 3D printers. I could get sucked into that for the rest of the day. I don't want to. The fish poster was cool, but it ended up popping behind your head like a big hat. Yeah, I knew that when I had the fish poster there, it was never meant to live there long term. It's just like, it's fine. I'll eventually hang it somewhere. It's now sitting on the table over there still. I haven't done anything with it. So, need to figure out somewhere for it to live permanently. Yeah, the grass itself is 95 degrees and getting crispy. Do I have to touch it? The grass is struggling hard. The clover doing well. So I'm hoping if I water the clover, it'll keep overtaking the grass, and I'll just have this clover grove that is great for the wildlife. We hosted that wedding, so I had to cut it down quite a bit. And when I was doing it, tons of snakes and frogs. It was like, I don't know, it was like a movie or something. So I know it's working, and so I'm excited to see more of that come back. Let's see here. Did they give you any coins at the zoo? No, we got stickers, which was fun. At one point, a seagull pooped on my head and it fell on the inside of my sunglasses. So that was an event. And I remembered that because we were standing there talking to a nice woman that worked there who was giving out some stickers when the seagull pooping on me happened. And yeah, they had like these little machines that you could have done where, like you put in I think they provided the coin, but put some money in and like you could stamp a coin or do a thing. And but we ended up not doing any of that because there was other little mementos to like our little pictures, and so these things that happen at random like that, we got, because we were two people, we each got our own photo booth photos, like together, obviously, but we got two copies. And while we were standing in line, I was like, wow, this is going to be like the first copies we can put in our car. Because my wife, we did some photo booths like a really long time ago, and they were like clipped like by the rear view mirror or whatever for like a billion years, like a long time. So much so the sun faded and you couldn't even tell they were like anything was on there almost anymore. Um, but I was talking about, like, it's gonna be so neat. Like, we could keep a set in the car, or we could put a set on the fridge, you know. And now they're there. They're on the fridge here in my fish room, and those are things that just wouldn't exist had we not gone out and touched grass. Because I wouldn't have ordered. Not that I couldn't have. I just wouldn't have. I would not have ordered a little strip of photos of my wife and I to put on the fridge or something like that. Like, it wouldn't have been organic or whatever. So, this being that organic day, like, that'll probably live on my fridge for the next 15, 20 years or something, just because we did the thing and it'll sit there. So, yeah, it was enjoyable. What are my thoughts on the Fluval 407 versus competitors? Uh, I think it's the best canister filter money can buy at that price point, that reliability, that accessibility to parts that have mods for it. Yeah, I think there's lots of other stuff that is either inferior or higher priced and not worth it. And yeah, so as much as, Fluval be tripping and they're, our rivals, I gotta admit they do a good job with that canister filter series. I think all their canisters. I like the FX line. I like the 407 or like the 400 series. Um, I hope someday maybe I'll build something better. That'd be cool, but it's a tall order because they did a pretty good job with those, honestly. Much to my flu ball trip, and they did a good job. A seagull once snatched a sandwich out of my hand while I was taking a bite. See, I want that to happen because that's the ultimate story. You get to tell that story, and you get to remember when that that seagull snatched a sandwich out of my hands? That was insane. Like, that's gonna be way more memorable than you eating a sandwich on a random day. So, but maybe that's I love when nature interacts with me going, that was crazy, right? Like, wow, didn't think that was gonna happen today. Let's see here. Kyle Moe on the recovery. Hopefully they did get it all for you, buddy, and you're doing well. 3 more minutes. We got 3 minutes. We're winding down. If canisters are your thing, then the flu ball's the way to go. I've used them for 20 years plus. I should say, so those are good, but I realized I left out, I think, another good one that I do think the price point is fair on, and that's uh the classic Eheim series. I also believe that they're very good at the price point. Although I like them more, but parts way less accessible. So I would still say, if for general recommendation, I would still recommend Fluval over Eheim. Yeah. Even though I like Eheim a lot too, you need a part, it's always a pain in the butt. It's never easy for me. That being said, you don't need parts very often. So that is a plus. But you don't need parts very often with a Fluval either. Usually it's, I made a dumb mistake. Has anyone cultured scuds? Any advice? Uh, yes. My advice is, through complete accident, I know this. Get yourself some large pre-filter sponges, basically, that we would sell, and just put those in the tanks you want to culture them. It is like the world's best scud hotel. You can then take that thing and like shake it in other aquariums and be like, it's raining scuds. They love living in that thing. I don't know why. Party Guard 4643 just placed an order. Heck yeah. Let's do it. Thank you. Growing up, my dad was a zookeeper at the San Francisco Zoo. Good times. Our officiant at our wedding worked. I don't know if she still works there. I don't know if she's retired or she still does. But she worked at the Woodland Park Zoo. Let's see. Your Owaze videos in my favorites folder. I still watch it. Owaze. I don't I don't know. I'm just sad. That's all I got for them is like you had so much venture capital money. You had so much opportunity to really just like improve this industry, and instead, in my opinion, you just slapped your name on things that you know that whole there's a lot of videos that show it's like, look at this, it's a mag float with the Owaze name on it. Look at this, it's this thing with their name on it. And at some point, everybody's slapping a name on a thing, right? But you have the option to make the thing better. Like that's the thing. That's at the end of the day, a Toyota, a Honda, a Ford, they're all cars. They're all just different brands. It's what you do slightly different. They're all four wheels, they all have an engine, they all get you to the grocery store. It's all the small differences that set you apart. And when you don't do a small difference to set it apart, it's never going to stand out. So then you're just playing a game of how many stores can I get into? How many people can I get to buy this? When I think there's so much better path of like use that money. I remember talking to the CEO guy and they spent, I want to say over $1 million on their booth at Interzoo. And they had to hire lighting technicians and all the crazy stuff for their after party. And at the time, this was probably like 2018 or something. And I'm thinking like, yes, but that could have launched the next best 2 or 3 products probably with radical good changes. Instead, you spend it on lighting for the after party and the booth. And then I remember him saying like, yeah, we'll probably use this booth for 1 to 2 years, then we'll redesign a booth. And it's because the guy was very much into the showmanship of the brand, not in like the actual, so it'd be like having the world's best looking restaurant where the food is just like cafeteria food. Like it just, and it's like, but you could make insanely good food and the package around the food could look terrible, but people would come because your food's amazing. Instead, but if we make the package good enough, people will buy the cafeteria food. And I just, such a Debbie Downer to just know that that's essentially, I mean, maybe they'll change CEOs and they'll change that or whatever, but I don't know. It just, you know, there's a lot of long term, there's a lot of people that have had some problems with every type of product, but I will say it's interesting that people that are around me that got into it, got stuff for free, don't use it anymore. Like, I kind of had a problem and they were expensive and this thing. It's not that they didn't have some good concepts, but like I love the Waze filters. The pre-filter and the heater is super nice. Sure, at that price point, they could do it for a lot less. Also, don't forget they lie on their packaging, or they show on the package that the media will be fluidized, but it can't be fluidized if it's in the bag. And the manual says leave it in the bag. And when I talked to the guy that did it, he says, yes, I know, but it sells, so we're keeping it. It's just stuff like that that irks me. Of like, I just feel like you don't have to lie about the product. Like you could just say, we think this is better. You don't have to lie about it on the package. So, and they took some of my feedback, not much of it, but they did make the pre-filter sponge more coarse so it didn't clog up as fast because originally they had it super fine, So maybe they'll get there eventually, but they didn't want to hear what I had to say. They like their hang on back right now was going to revolutionize the industry. They didn't want my feedback at all. Their German engineers, they said, have already got it all figured out. And then they launched it, and it's just like, cool, you have the most vanilla, bland, hang on back like everybody else. Your big revolutionary was like it comes in black, white, and clear. Mind blowing. How could you pull that off? 3 different colors. My gosh. Crazy. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's got to be. Is there an Awaze product that I'm actually like, okay, that's actually super cool? Because they started out in the pond scene, then came to aquatics. Let's see here. Products. Got air pumps. They do anything cool with air pumps yet? Oh, they're just the rebranded Eheim air pumps. I see. I see. What about... They sell fish food? No. UV sterilizers, power filters, internal filters, external filters, heaters, soils. I don't know. I'm just being a hater. I don't like being a hater because I'd rather focus on good stuff. But I felt like, and I felt the same way about flu ball. And you guys see it with us when we do a booth somewhere. I give away shirts. I give the money to the people. It's not, I think the flu ball booth, they had baristas on staff. They were also serving food. They literally hired go-go dancers for the after party when they, flew us out there because we were selling so many of the lights and everything in America. And I remember them saying no to no more discount, but then also spending $700,000 on a booth. And I'm just like, but you could have made lights cheaper for the consumer. Like literally could have not had this stupid party, not put me in a hotel room that's like 500 euros a night, and could have made it cheaper to the hobbyist. Like I just don't get it. Let's see here. I have a challenge for Corey. The next time he or Zenzo get bored, better air pumps that don't need parts replaced after power outages. I don't know that outside of a linear air piston pump, you're going to be able to do that because it's some products. It would be like, what do I want to say? It's like invent tires that can never go bad. It's like, yeah, but they're literally invented to kind of be the part that wears. Because like diaphragm, like the rubber diaphragm is kind of the wear part. So like, I mean, it shouldn't only not come back on after a power outage or something, but it's a hard thing. I definitely I have some work to do. I've been putting it off, and I need to do it this week. Probably is work on some air pumps and make some decisions to start the next version of. Well, I got to decide if it's prototyping or just like, okay, let's start going to print. Got to make those decisions, and it's always hard with electronic and just like I struggle. Like, am I reading the market right? Do I think this is actually going to help people? Is this just a Me Too product? Like, is it actually different? Are we actually improving it somehow? Because you can make a change, but does it actually make it better? It's hard to say. But I've been on a roll, so you guys have been liking the products I've been doing lately. And I think because I agonize over it, I've got more of a chance to not do something that sucks. So the brownouts that followed last year's power outage killed every pump. 2 did better after the diaphragms were replaced. 3 need to be replaced. Huh. Lazy Fish Keeper, were those our air pumps? Because ours should have kept going at the brownouts due to the battery, or were they a different brand? I'm sure there's a whole algorithm of back pressure from air device, depth of tank, and runtime. So what I'm trying to say, like an air pump on a 10-gallon tank running normally might be like, you should replace the diaphragm every 3 years. But that same air pump on this tank with a restrictive air stone might be like, oh, it needs to replace yearly. It's more stress on the thing. And I bet there's some kind of different industry that has that figured out. But I would wager there's a lot of that in our hobby where a tiny pump can technically run an 800-gallon tank. But what does that do to the longevity? Just like technically you can fill the trunk of your car with manure instead of using a truck. But what does that do to longevity? Like that car wasn't designed to take that much weight at the back, where a truck is made to handle that. So like, is it going to wear on the shocks more? Is it going to have problems with the struts? Or the spring's going to be okay? The tires aren't rated for it. There's all these things. And so I bet there's Because even if we put what this pump's supposed to do on the package, we all are, I think, governed by the I plugged it in. Is it working? It's working. Great. I'm not going to buy another pump. It's fine. So, yeah. Yes, they were our air pumps. Weird. I can't explain why like a power surge, because they should just stay on, how it should have any impact on the diaphragms at all. That's it. Maybe they ran out. Like maybe they ran out of battery and then they came on. I just can't think of how, because right now when it loses power, it just keeps going at the same mode. So I can't see how that like introduces a new stress. But I also, it shouldn't be like when things fail, they do fail. Like my buddy had a computer and he went out of town for like 2 weeks and he shut all his computers down. And I think like his daughter's computer, I think the CMOS battery is dead. And so it's not booting because it doesn't detect a hard drive because it's got the wrong order set. But you wouldn't know that because the computer just stays on and basically gets shut down and it could restart over a night, but it loses enough power after 2 weeks that it couldn't remember the settings. So when things fail, they do typically fail after power's been out for a long time, but I still, like a light bulb, for instance, light bulbs, if you just leave them on, they run like an insane amount of years, but if you flip them on and off, eventually the on-off cycle is what breaks it. So I wonder if there's something that I could figure out why that could have happened. Let's see. I've used your Fluval lights that used to be on Murphy's tank. I kept the label in the app the same. I think about him every time we go into the app. Nice. That's actually pretty cool that they're still in use and everything. We're still using Fluval lights in where? In the warehouse in some of the parts because they still work. Even though we had our own lights, it didn't make sense to put different lights on. They ran out of battery, and when the power was finally restored, they didn't like the inconsistent power burps until the city replaced the transformer. I see. I wonder, I don't know if I can replicate that, because I'm wondering, like, the inconsistent power, did it, like, because the way a diaphragm pump works, if you don't know, there's basically a magnet, and as it, like, so there's the motor, and there's a magnet, and as it vibrates, it basically, it's like a tail wagging. As it wags the tail, the piece of rubber goes in and out moving air very quickly. And so I wonder if somehow it like got the wrong rhythm and tore, if it was just maybe they were all bought similar at the same time and they were getting close and that was like it pushed them over the edge. You know, is it like the syndrome where you drive a car to and from work every day and it kind of just does its thing, but then you want to take it on a cross country trip and of course, you know, 3 states away from home, the car has a problem because we've now used it differently than we were. I wonder. Well, the good news is there's replacement diaphragms for not too expensive that you can buy and get them back up to speed, and it's a quick swap out. My electrician husband says there's too many factors for it to be the pump's fault. Yeah, I do agree that like it's not necessarily our product has failed. However, or the cause of the failure. However, if we can design in anything we could do, like sometimes it's like, oh, we could do this, and you know, but yeah, in theory, most people won't experience it because it already has the battery. You'd have to run out of the battery and then have that thing happen. And then I wonder if it's a certain length or wear on the rubber that it would cause that. So Lazy Fish Keeper says the 6-month-old top fin, that one annoyed me. So were there other air pumps as well? So like, was it all? So I always think like, okay, my product's the problem. I got to fix my product. But if all of them, at a certain point, like I put 10 air pumps underwater and they all broke, like, okay, well, that's to be expected. I don't know if there's anything. I wonder if that's. I guess I live a technology privileged life in that I've never had like a lightning strike or anything. I've never had a surge that has broken electronic in my life. I think all my stuff are on power strips. I doubt they're all surge protectors. I don't know. Um, so I wonder if that's just built in and I don't realize it. I wonder if I just been lucky and never had to experience it. Not sure. Yeah. But the good news is we do try to provide our parts section keeps growing and we're trying to keep providing more replacement parts and things for our products because every year more and more get sold. They're more likely to, hey, my dog chewed on that. Hey, this thing broke. Hey, that thing happened. This part wore out. Um, and so trying not to fill the landfills as fast as possible and trying to get more longevity out of stuff. So, all right. 2 hours and 15 minutes. Thank you for hanging out with me on a Sunday. Please read my comments. Do I have any natural no filter aquariums? I do not. Well, not this day and age. I've done them. I did them in the past. I enjoyed them. But I don't think they're better than the way I run my aquariums now. And I'm a guy that tries to do what I think is best. Doesn't always work out, but would I do one in the future? I would. If I had a reason to test it or I thought like, oh, I think it'll benefit in this way or I want to test this, I would, but I don't run any without any filters currently because I think air is just too easy. Had a power outage the day after I got my tank filter in the tank. All right. All right, everybody. I'll see you next Sunday. I'll get another live stream posted. We'll hang out some more. Thanks to everybody that hung out, hit the like button, shared it with someone, made your grandma watch, making tacos for dinner. Yeah, we're single-handedly going to keep tacos alive. If you see that there's tacos for sale somewhere in the world, just know that's because you partook in the Aquarium Co-op live stream. We're making the dream come true. Buy all of our stuff. That'd be great. I don't know about even better because getting money is great. But would it also be super duper duper beneficial if you've used any of our products? Go leave a review. If it's good, if it's bad, all the same, leave the reviews. Especially if they're newer products. Like I think the underground filter is up to 7. Meanwhile, we've sold a lot. So it must just not invoke people to want to write about it. But anything you want to talk about our products helps other people evaluate whether they would like our product or not. You can also steer them in the other direction. I thought this was going to do a thing. It doesn't do that thing. Buy this instead. And that would help us too. So thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you next week. Just got to find the good old button.